Welcome, everybody. It's Over a Couple of Beers podcast time. Jason Collins here with my partner in crime, Jason Cercone.
V for Vendetta.
Uh-oh.
It's going down tonight. I'm sorry. I'm not in a good mood.
I think I know what he's talking about. I think I know.
Yeah.
So hopefully everybody had a good week since our last podcast. I know I did. We've got new sound equipment.
Yeah, it sounds killer. If you guys didn't listen to Jason's podcast earlier this afternoon that he posted, it sounded really, really good. Content still sucks, but he'll get there. But just kidding, man. You're doing real good. I like what you're doing.
You're lying to me.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to be as honest as I possibly can. It's a little bit different than what we do here. It's more cutting edge in regards to Jason's
I wouldn't
thoughts.
go that far.
I won't. Well, I guess cutting
It's
edge.
got some swear words in it. That's
Yeah.
about as cutting edge as it gets. My content is based a lot upon what's out there right now in the media and stuff. But
But with the new equipment, it sounds great, and I know that was kind of the thorn in our side for our first few broadcasts. So now we are over the hump, and hopefully sounding crystal clear for you guys. Now, and I will say, I know I start off with the vendetta.
I was going to kind of let you just get right into this.
I'm not going to be salty the whole podcast. I have something I will get off my chest. So I think it really comes down to, should we start with the good or the bad? What are you feeling? Should we start off on a negative note and get it out of the way?
Well, if that's what you want to do. I was going to say we should probably start off on a good note and then go downhill from there.
Yeah, and I think we should mention, I know it was plugged, that we were going to be joined by Jamie Hassick from Blunt Force Brewing this evening. Unfortunately, he was unable to attend due to technical issues.
Yeah, I feel for him because we've been, like I said, dealing with that for the first few podcasts. These dirty electronics and technology that doesn't cooperate. So we feel for him, and we'll get that rescheduled for the near future. And in the meantime, go visit bluntforcebrewing.com and check out what he's got on tap over there.
Yep. So looking forward to having Jamie on in the very near future. So this weekend was a lot of fun for me. I know I brought it up last week, talked about what was going to be happening in my world, and I will say I got an opportunity to go down to D.C. We've talked about it a few times on the podcast, the movie Blood, Sweat, and Beer, made by Chip Hayden and Alexis Irvin. It world premiered at the D.C. Independent Film Festival, and I was lucky enough to be in attendance to see this movie. And I will say I've gotten to know Matt and Asa and Brandon while he was a part of the brewery down at the Brew Gentlemen, and I'll tell you that their story is incredibly moving and inspiring. When you see what these guys went through to get this brewery off the ground, it is incredible how far they've come in less than a year. And this movie documents their whole plight from the beginning phases of starting off with getting funding, all the way through building a business plan, through having to do all this research on where they wanted to have the brewery located, all the way through to opening day. And it was really, really cool to be down there and be part of that. Also, another part of the movie that was also, it really speaks to what we've talked about a lot in the craft beer industry over the past few weeks with our podcast, but also something that's been going on for years and years, is the struggle that these microbreweries have getting off the ground and fighting the big guy. And when I say the big guy, I don't necessarily just mean big beer. Also fighting the big corporations.
Red Bull.
Yeah, that was one that we talked about at one of our earlier podcasts. And I haven't heard much about that off subject since we originally covered Red Bull going after Old Ox in Virginia. But
well, hopefully Red Bull got the message and
I'm sure. Yeah,
I'm sure they got some bad press over there.
I'm sure they heard our podcast and it completely changed the sands of time, flipped the script, and all kinds of positive things coming from this Over a Couple Beers podcast.
I'm sure the big wigs at Red Bull are listening to our podcast.
Changing the world 5 listeners at a time. That's our plan. So getting back on subject, Backshore Brewing, located in Ocean City, Maryland, they're another part of the Blood, Sweat, and Beer documentary, and their story is another one that's just riddled with tragedy and triumph, I guess, is a way to say it. They had originally named Danny, the gentleman who runs a couple businesses down in Ocean City, who started the brewery, had named it Shore Billy. And I won't go into what that means, but it's actually a really cool story how they came up with that name. And you'll learn about that in the movie. But they started this brewery with that name, and there was also a company that came along that trademarked the name for clothing. And it ended up turning into this awful legal dispute, and it just goes to show that it's not just big beer that goes after the little guys. It's big companies in general. When they see an opening, they think they can stick their hand in and take what they want. And this movie does a really, really detailed explanation about everything that goes on, that went on with building that brewery. And in addition to that, going around to some of the other breweries around the country, and it talked about craft beer in general. There's a great segment about females in craft brewing and how that's slowly but surely rising, and there's more women becoming brewers. And if you go back centuries ago, women were the ones that did the majority of the brewing.
Well, until
the Industrial Revolution came along and changed all that.
Is it Dogfish Head, the head brewer, is a female? I know one of the big, Rogue. Rogue, the head brewer at Rogue is a female. So one of the biggest craft breweries out there, the head brewer is a female. So she's.
I wish I could remember the name of the woman and what brewery she came from. That does slip my mind at this point, but she was funnier than hell. She had some great lines about her. She's part Asian and has a lot to say about Asians being in the craft brewing industry as well, and mainly people other than white people. And
right.
It speaks a lot to the majority of who you see drinking craft beer is white people.
Sure.
And this kind of speaks to how, again, slowly but surely that trend is starting to slide in other directions.
I know I'm trying to do my part, switching black people over one person at a time.
Yeah.
I did it last night, but more I'll get into that in a second, but more importantly, was there a red carpet event there? Was Melissa Rivers there talking about people's dresses and that type of thing? Or
what is it? How far are we in? 8:08, and the dress came up. I didn't think we'd talk about the dress.
Yeah. I talked about it a little bit earlier in my podcast, too. I spent very little time on it just to touch on it because it was a thing.
Complete microcosm of
our society.
Just the crap that we pay attention to. But no, there was no Melissa Rivers. However, there was, I guess you can call it a red carpet event. There was a pre-screening drinking event that featured the Brew Gentlemen pouring two of their top beers, the White Sky, which is one of their flagships that is extremely popular, and also the Business Casual Red Ale, which I'm a big fan of. Also, Backshore had a barley wine and a blonde ale that I didn't get a chance to try. The barley wine I did try, which was solid. And there was another Forge Brewing out of, they're out of Virginia as well, and I cannot remember what part now. But I did not get a chance to try their beer. It was very crowded, obviously.
Crowded.
I mean, imagine that everybody wanted a beer. I mean, that was what... And they had cheese. So it was beer and cheese.
Beer and cheese.
And a pretzel guy there as well.
Oh.
So...
Like soft pretzels?
Soft pretzels.
Bavarian style?
Yes.
That's...
So it was an off-red carpet event, but a red carpet event nonetheless, and it gave us a good opportunity.
Did they make the carpet extra soft so when people were face planting in it, trying to get to the movie theater, it was gonna...
It was memory foam.
Oh.
Kind of like you put in your bathroom.
That's good. After you're drinking all the barley wines and everything, you can fall face first into the red carpet and not hurt yourself. That's good stuff.
Yeah. So that was part of the weekend. I will say that movie will be filming or screening here in Pittsburgh during Pittsburgh Craft Beer Week. From what they told me, April 25th will be the day for that. So we'll have a lot of coverage on that leading into Craft Beer Week. But you guys, when it gets here, make it a point to get down to see it. And I'm going to talk with them about doing some promotions in regards to getting pre-copies into your hands. At this point, because they're going to be showing it at a lot of independent film festivals, we can't have an actual copy to watch until they're all done with that process. But once it's done, they are selling copies, so I'm going to see how we can get a link posted so you guys can get an advance copy. I highly, highly recommend it. I don't want to sound like I'm speaking biasly because of being in Pittsburgh and the Brew Gentlemen being part of it, but overall, the reaction that the crowd gave when that movie ended was astounding. and then they had a Q&A right after the movie, and everybody participated in that. Everybody was asking really, really good questions. You could tell that people
What's a
were
Q&A?
engaged.
I'm not good with acronyms.
Damn it, we got to start preparing for these jokes if you're going to lob up crap.
Well, no, there's no preparation.
Question and answer period,
okay.
kind sir. And as I was
like a fact?
As I was saying, it's like a fact. So as I was saying, they were answering the questions from everyone, but the cool part was the audience was very engaged. They wanted to know a lot about it. There was a lot of hands left up in the air because they had to wrap it up. But when it comes around, you guys are going to want to check this out. Fantastic movie, really good story about both breweries and craft beer in general and where we're headed. So hats off to Chip and Alexis. I know I'm really looking forward to them coming up here and being part of our podcast in April. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So more importantly, what color was the dress?
Black and blue.
Okay. That's what I said too.
Yeah.
But I saw the other colors too.
So I
didn't see just that.
So wasn't it like a negative? Or that they said, or the photo distorted? Was how the
I don't know.
color
I don't know what the final verdict was. I don't know if it was just the lighting or the what have you. But I initially, when I was asked when I first saw it, I didn't see it as blue as when I saw the actual dress when they showed that actual picture. I didn't see that color blue.
Hopefully that drowns you out.
Well, what were you drinking before?
2X stout.
You gonna talk about it?
No.
That's it?
Should we talk about beer or your fascination with the dress?
I was using you doing that to get off the whole dress subject. So
that was our
what beer you
segue.
just drank.
So I just drank a Southern Tier 2X stout, and Southern Tier is a brewery that we've gone on and on about their greatness. So I don't think we need to spend too much time talking about how good they are.
Up there over what we talk about.
Again, changing the viewpoints of craft beer enthusiasts, one listener at a time. So, what are you into, my friend?
Also, Southern Tier. I have some Unearthly. I probably need it. I was a tad bit hungover this morning. I need a little hair of the dog. I think it's going to make me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, talk about your what led to your hangover. That's a pretty good story, actually.
Very busy month at work last month, and we finished out, and a few of us at the end of the night decided that we were going to go across the street from work to a nice, lovely little dive bar, and I say dive bar in the greatest sense of the word.
Nothing wrong with dive bars.
No, especially ones that serve good beer.
Yes.
Which Carl's Tavern in Monroeville does. And went over with a few guys from work. All have dabbled in the craft beer world. All have their own opinions of it and tastes. And one of the guys is a guy who still drinks, Bud Light Lime-A-Ritas. And I have a deep problem with this.
Guys drinking Bud Light.
Well, I use the word guy very loosely.
Yeah, and you probably are using the word deep problem literally.
Yeah, maybe. So we sat down, and I would not let him drink swilly yellow beer in my presence. So the three other guys that were with me kind of used me as the type A personality for the night, picking everybody's beers and what they should try and that type of thing. So I started him off with one that I knew he'd like because he's always told me that I don't like hoppy beers, and I keep telling him that is incorrect. You just haven't found a hoppy beer that you like yet. And so I started him off with the Evil Twin Brewing Purple Monkey Dishwasher, which is one of the greatest names for a beer ever. The Simpsons reference is fantastic. But it is a chocolate peanut butter porter. You might also know of a little beer called Sweet Baby Jesus that also is... actually, can you grab me one of those out of there so I don't have to get back up and get another beer and leave this wonderful podcast. So it's like Sweet Baby Jesus, and I got to tell you that I like it a little bit better than the Sweet Baby Jesus. I think it's a little bit tastier, but he thought the same. He loved it. Obviously, he smelled it first, and he loved the way it smelled and tasted and all that good stuff. So I started him off safe. I knew he'd like it, and second beer came around, and he was unsure of what to order. And is when we were going to order, I was going to have him. I think I was going to have him order the Brew Gentlemen, the wheat stout, and when the waitress came back over, she told us that one of the beers that was on the list actually had been tapped, and they put Nugget Nectar in the handle. So I thought this was the perfect opportunity to have Mike drink something hoppy, but quality hoppy, because his only hop introduction was Hop Devil, which
That's not bad.
well, but it's not. But it's
Maybe
it's,
a little
it's an
bit
entry,
more bitter than.
It's an entry beer, and it's also it's an okay beer.
Yeah.
It's not. I wouldn't go. This is one of the best hoppy beers. You
No,
know?
I wouldn't say that either. But what I'm
So-
saying is, when you're making that transition, it's not exactly
Well, no,
the most
that is
overpowering.
that is a transition beer, but to me, it's not the highest quality of transition beers.
Okay, I'll go with that.
I looked at this as an opportunity to go. Okay, well, he doesn't like hoppy beers because of Hop Devil, so he needs like one of the best. So he needs the super quality hoppy beer that's going to change his mind on what he prefers and doesn't prefer when he drinks beer. So I made a deal with him. I said to him and the waitress, I said, you order the Nugget Nectar, you take one drink. If you do not like it, I will take it and drink it, and I will put it on my tab. You don't have to pay for it. But if you do like it, you're going to drink the whole thing, and you're going to pay for it. So he told me that I was crazy and he wasn't going to like it because it's hoppy and all that stuff. So she brings back the beer. He takes a little sip, immediately puts the glass down, and I'm thinking, well, I'm paying for this beer. And he sits there for a second, he's staring at the glass, and he goes, I didn't think it would be that sweet. He goes, this is delicious.
Nugget Nectar is an
Yeah. And I knew, and I looked at him, and he's kind of looking at me like,
Nectar of the gods.
and he's looking at me like I'm crazy, like I knew he would just like this beer. So I looked at him and I said, follow me, my son. I will lead you to the promised land. And so hopefully, I'm not trying to convert him to anything. I just don't want him to drink Limeritas. Those are stupid. But they are like 9% alcohol.
Limeritas are?
Yeah, they're high up there on the alcohol. But
I don't buy it.
Well, they, yeah.
I don't buy it.
But I can't imagine drinking one of those anyway. But I need to keep him away from the awful frou-frou-y drinks. And I think I at least set him on the right path last night.
That is a tremendous start.
Yeah. So he'll be keeping an eye out for Nugget Nectar and probably keep hitting me up for, well, since I like this one, what else do you think I would like?
That's usually how it begins. I know that's how we were too, and that's what I like to hear, that beginning story, and that's what we're all about, is getting more people involved in this whole craft beer movement. There's a way to do it, because my dad's one of the biggest examples of that, is when we went to a ball game down at PNC. We went to Soho for lunch first, and I had ordered a East End Big Hop. And he got, I don't know, Coors Light, whatever he was drinking back then, and I let him try it, and it was so overwhelming to him, which I completely expected. But his question was, how do you drink that? How do you drink that kind of beer? And obviously, the answer is with great pleasure. But
the first time I tried a hoppy beer too, I was like, "Boom!"
Yeah, it blows you away.
You have to develop the palate.
As time went on, and I started introducing the different beers. Another time, we were down at where were we? Rivertown, down by Heinz Field, and I had ordered a Fathead's Big Hunter, or a Head Hunter. I'm sorry, and gave him a sip of that, and the reaction was still a little, but
it wasn't.
It was like, that's
sour
not
face.
bad. That's okay. So now we're getting there. Then fast forward to a couple Christmases ago when I get the phone call of, hey, I'm getting a couple 6-packs to bring home. What do I get?
Right.
There you go. That's what we want to see. More people that are starting to understand that it's not bad beer.
Right.
Just tastes different, and some people's
You have to
tastes
get
are
used to it.
completely different.
Yep.
But there's no reason to close off.
Well, that's where craft beer is different too, because they meet the needs of everybody's palate.
Indeed.
Whereas Budweiser and Miller and Coors, they got light, not light.
Well, prime example.
Here, it's not light or not light. Which one do you like?
Perfect example. We were just talking about Southern Tier, as we do often. I did a sampling for them up at Hal's Bottle Shop last Thursday. And before I go further, shout out to everybody that came out. That was a tremendous event. Me and Danny both said it was one of the better events. Danny ranked it in his top 5 of events. We had a great turnout. Some very solid beers. We went from PMX right up to the creme brulee.
Yeah.
And what I noticed myself doing was we had PMX live, 2X Stout, the Unearthly, and the Creme Brulee. Mm-hmm. So, in an effort to not crush people's palates on that very first sample they had, we started with PMX, and they asked, where should I start?
Right.
Let's start you with a very basic
lager.
It's a very basic, extraordinary ale, as the label says, but one of the better transition beers out there because it's not overly hoppy. It's not over. It's a little more multi-malt, very well balanced beer.
Yeah, and it's very reminiscent of
if you're drinking Yingling a lot,
Sam Adams and
Sam Adams Boston Lager.
And I'm not a huge fan of the Boston Lager, but to give people an idea because that's a mass distributed beer. The Finn and Matt's Extraordinary Ale, now called PMX, is their version of that Boston Lager.
Right.
It actually tastes very similar to it. I think it's a little bit better, but
I would agree
to give
with
people
you
an idea of what that beer is like, it's like the Boston Lager.
Yeah, and then we just worked from there. We went to Southern Tier Live next, which I've always labeled as a nice transition beer as well because it's not very powerful, but the hop punch that you get from that is nice.
Yeah, it's a nice citrusy hop.
And it gives you a little bit of an understanding of, okay, maybe I can take on an IPA. Maybe I can go into something else. Or a double IPA, Imperial IPA, and that's where we went next, right into the Unearthly. And then it kind of wrapped the whole thing up with a little bit of sweetness coming from the Milk Stout and the 2X Stout, and then just burying your face in the Krispy Kreme known as Creme Brulee.
Oh, boy.
And that's and the reactions were so...
Creme Brulee's an adventure.
It was so different, and it was ranging male to female. Many of the guys were like, "Can I have some of that more on that Unearthly just to kind of rinse that out?" But the women
it's pretty bad when you're using Unearthly as a palate cleanser,
right? But that's the whole point is Southern Tier being one of the big craft breweries in existence right now has something to satiate every need and every desire in regards to what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And again, you run down their whole portfolio of beers, and much like Michael Bolton in Office Space, I celebrate their whole portfolio.
Yeah, their entire catalog.
And their entire catalog.
Yes.
So I completely botched that line, didn't I?
People got it.
That's good.
Anybody who's ever watched Office Space got it.
Yeah, anybody that hasn't has no clue. So
and they should go watch Office Space.
This is the equivalent of Talking Dead Air at the moment if you haven't seen the movie.
Yeah.
So to get to the point is that PMX is a great starter beer. You go right up to the hoppiest beers ever, and Southern Tier's got them all, and many breweries are in that same format. They've got beer for everybody. And, that, in a way, segues into why I'm bitter, why I'm a little angry. Now, before I go...
Bitter beer face.
Before I go into this, I want to kind of do a little preamble on this whole thing. And
preamble.
I'm going to say that we're not trying to be beer elitists here. Never have. Never will be. Never claim to be beer experts. I am of the mindset that if you like a beer that is mass-produced, macro beer, whatever you want to define it as, that's fine. Go ahead, and that's what you drink. That's what you prefer. But what you can't do is discount what all of these craft brewers are doing and what they're putting out there. Mm-hmm. And it's obvious that more people than even 5 years ago are into that kind of beer. So you can't tell those people that they're wrong. Just like you and I can't sit here and tell people that drink Budweiser that they're wrong. I was
going to play devil's advocate there.
Yes, we can...
I'm not telling them they're wrong. I'm just telling them
there's other options available.
Wrong.
And listen, and that's the thing. We've said it before. Beer is subjective.
I'm kidding.
No, I mean,
I get it. We used to drink that stuff.
Sure, everybody did. Everybody. But I think no one started with IPAs.
The frustration I have with it is just people's unwillingness to try new things. That's what really kind of gets to me.
That's just it, and there's enough. You make strides, and when you take 3 steps forward, there's always something out there that makes you take a step back.
Like DJ Scat Cat.
I can't believe you. The whole Office Space thing was troubling me if I got that over, and you're pulling out Paula Abdul references.
Yeah, well, actually, you know what actually put that in my mind? There's a series on Netflix. I don't know if you've watched any of it yet. It's called BoJack Horseman.
No, I haven't.
Oh my god, dude, it's hilarious. It's an animated show. It's Will Arnett is the main character, and it's got Amy Sedaris, and and Patton Oswalt and J.K. Simmons and
Lineup sounds good.
oh, dude, the cast is great. And if anybody has Netflix, and they actually, if you have Netflix and you're a stoner, good Lord, this is the greatest cartoon in the history of cartoons. Because even not stoned, this cartoon is just insane.
Well, I think that the whole idea of Netflix was built revolving around the stoner lifestyle.
That is probably true.
Binge watching
Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad is also a main character on the show.
Okay, so that's
yeah. So if you haven't seen BoJack Horseman, please do it. It's Stephen Colbert is on there.
good lineup.
Yeah,
good lineup.
The cast is incredible. So back to your rant here. Let's keep going with that.
All that said,
She even looks hateable.
So last Friday, right before I was about to go into another beer sampling I did for Southern Tier, I was just killing a little bit of time in my car because I got there a little early and came across an article by Miss Eleanor Robertson from a website in Australia called The Guardian. And listen, being a blogger for a long time, but in regards to beer for the past year, we're all entitled to our opinions. We all have a very subjective point of view, and we're all free to speak how we like to about it. Miss Eleanor Robertson here has a very jaded point of view and a platform in which to speak about it. Well, guess what? So do we.
Yeah, I was going to say, everybody's got a platform now.
Exactly. So the world we're living in gives us all free reign to talk about these things and fire back in any which way we want. So the headline of this is awfully attention-grabbing, I'm not going to lie, because
that little thumping noise you hear is his fist hitting the table.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I'm turning into
No, it's fine. I just wanted everybody to know how angry he is about this. He's clenching his fist and hitting the table.
So the reason I'm angry is because for a novice that's just getting into craft beer, and like your friends last night that tried craft beer for the first time, or just ooh, this is good, might come across this ridiculous piece of shit article and say, oh, well, that's what it is. I don't want any part of it. And that to me is ridiculous because it kills the efforts of all these guys locally, all the guys nationally doing great things. This is the kind of
this may be one of those articles too that we're giving unnecessary attention to as well.
I don't no, I'll give it
and helping her cause by letting people know that this exists. It's
maybe
one of those things where we should probably just bury in the yard.
Maybe,
but
I don't care.
No, I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah,
I am just saying
talk about it.
It's one of those people that just shouldn't get the attention.
Yeah. So the title of her article is "Give Me Cheap Beer or Give Me Sobriety. Just Stop This Craft Beer with quotes Revolution." Okay, so let's start with the title. I'm not going to go through. No, you know what the hell? I'm going to go through it almost word for word. I don't think I'll read it out loud like it's a sing along, but there's enough here to keep us all fat and geekly for a while. And by that, I also mean completely angry as a craft beer enthusiast. This is just nuts. So, cheap beer has its place in the world. It does. We know it.
Sure, it does.
We know that we can't spend
If it wasn't for the efforts of cheap beer, there wouldn't be craft beer.
Good point. That's actually a very solid point. That'll be the quote that gets ripped from this podcast and put in big letters. Kind of like some of this swill that I'm reading right here.
I just gave somebody some context. Ugh.
Look at you evolve as a podcaster.
Oh, yuck.
All right, so she starts off with the very, again, all of us have our opinion. Hers is very, very subjective and in a very passive-aggressive way, ironically pretentious. Is the craft beer revolution over yet? For the past 4 or 5 years, I've been plaintively asking the question in the same tone as a toddler in the back seat. Now it seems that every time I head to the pub, I'm confronted by a row of hand-whittled taps. My pleas are becoming more desperate. Now, again, why is the fact that the taps look nice, they speak to a more sophisticated product, a more advanced product, why is that such a big thing? You mentioned dive bars earlier. I have this feeling that this woman is better. She wants to hang out in the bars that John Taffer rescues before he rescues them. Like, this is where she is the most happy. Craft beer is easy to hate. Most of it tastes bad. Beer snobs are phenomenally irritating, often even worse than narky farmers market set or the paleo herd. Hop connoisseurs are so annoying that they're published guides on how to be one, but the guidelines contain bits like this. Also, lager has had its good name besmirched by a long association with shitty American macro brews, all of which have to be lagers.
Oh, that's not true.
And all of which would be gross if they were ales.
Oh, I've had plenty of good lagers.
No, she ripped that.
Craft beer lagers.
Yeah, she ripped that from some other article, but...
can I point out the irony in all this, too? But after seeing her picture, she looks like a complete and utter hipster.
She does, and that's why my whole take on this was that it was ironically pretentious, because she was taking this stand against what we love, what we like, in a way that it's like, how, like again, I know there's people out there that do it. She's right in that respect. There are a lot of people out there that will say really awful, nasty things to people that drink shitty beer. That exists, and I completely understand it. But actually, no, I'm sorry, I take that back. I don't understand it. I just know it exists.
Right.
And I don't feel that way. I know I feel opinionated in that I prefer craft beer, and I would drink craft beer. I'm sorry, I would stay sober if I didn't have craft beer to drink. That's just how I am. But that's
right. That's what I'm the guy that brings the 6-pack to the party.
Sure.
Because I already know I'm not going to drink what's there. And I might look like a douche when I do that, but I don't care, because I'd rather be happy with what I'm drinking than have to be forced to drink crap. Yeah. And well, to be honest with you, I do poke fun at people who don't drink craft beer, but it's all in fun. It's not. Yeah. I don't really think that they're assholes for drinking regular swilly yellow cheap beer.
And that again, going back to the point that I made at the very beginning,
it doesn't define you, folks.
Exactly. My whole Breaking Brews blog.
Well, unless you drink PBR.
You know what? PBR. I actually, if it came down to it, maybe. If it's there, of all the crap beers, that one's actually one I don't mind. But to go back to what I started with here, that everybody has, their own evolution into this. When I launched Breaking Brews a year and a half ago, at least when the initial thought entered my head, it wasn't because I was making fun of someone for not liking craft beer. It was because this guy came into the beer market down in the North Shore on a tear because he couldn't get a Bud Light or a Miller Lite. And when they tried to make suggestions to him about what would be better, he was like, there's just no way. And he just had this whole attitude that there was no way that his staple beer could be replaced. And that was when he looked right at me and said, how does this place think it's going to survive if they don't serve Miller Lite and Bud Light? To which I responded, take a look around you, because it's full, packed, and they don't serve food.
Right.
I think they're going to make it.
Right.
And that kind of got me realizing that there are more people out there that just don't know. And that's why even if I'm the least loud voice in the room, I'm going to be a voice of advocacy for that whole revolution.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the whole premise of where I've been going.
100%. And that's really what it comes down to, is education. Just like anything.
Yep. These guys are doing great things, and people need to know about it. That's it.
Exactly. And I'll use my mother as an example, because the old dog's new trick scenario you would think would apply to my mom, because she doesn't like trying anything new.
Yeah.
My mom drinks craft beer.
That's awesome.
She loves craft beer. I bring home whatever I bring home, she's drinking it right with me. Oddly enough, she's really not open to a whole lot of new things, but she was open to the craft beer side of it, and she likes kind of everything. She's not somebody who's just like, well, I don't like hoppy beer. She if I bring it home and she drinks it, she'll tell me if she likes it or doesn't, and if she likes it, she'll drink the whole damn bottle. If she doesn't like it, she'll just pass it off to me, and I'll keep drinking it. But I've seen her drink 11-12% beers. I've seen her drink, pretty much everything. So, and it was all about me explaining to her. And that's part of the problem, is people just take that first drink and they go crazy. Yeah. They don't know what to think about it. But when you start explaining to them what they're tasting, they start to understand, and actually it kind of makes sense to them. Mm-hmm. Like if you say, well, this is a piney one. This is has the grapefruity. Speaking of grapefruits, can I please tell everybody, if you can get your hands on the grapefruit Sculpin?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. It's good.
Oh my God, that was a good
orgasmic beer.
Yeah. So my mom is an example of this. Somebody who's I've struggled for years to get her to try new things, and she likes craft beer. She'll still drink. Actually, she loves Michelob Light. Mm-hmm. She'll still drink it. But anytime I bring any of the good stuff home, man, she's all about wanting to try it and see what it tastes like. And she actually looks at me and asks me, like, what am I tasting here? What is this about? So it's not just old people that that fall into or young people that fall in the craft brew category. There's plenty of older folks that have missed out on this for the majority of their lives, and now they're getting in and they love it.
Yeah, except for Miss Eleanor Robertson.
Yes.
Who goes on in her laundry list of nonsense to say, when I go to the pub, I want to talk to my friends about their lives, our jobs, politics, funny things we saw on public transport that day. Well,
ye old pube.
Yeah, that's great. You know what? This past weekend we were down in D.C., and Jillian and I went to a couple places with her uncle on Saturday night. First place we went was called the Roadhouse Pub, I believe. Yeah, that sounds right.
Was Patrick Swayze's corpse there?
Yep. Is that the answer you want?
Sure.
Okay, so Patrick Swayze's corpse is there.
Okay, at the Roadhouse.
And 20 crafts, 20 beers, 20 craft beers on tap. Good ones, really solid ones. So I started off with shoot, I forget what.
Sounds delicious.
I'm sorry, it was the Stone, the Japanese green tea one they did.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I started with that, and then I had the Bitches Brew.
I've had the Bitches Brew. I'm not a fan. To be
really?
honest with you.
Really? I enjoyed that one.
To me, it was way too complex.
That one.
And I'm
got
not
me
opposed
very,
to complex,
very,
but it was
roasty
way,
and bitter. I liked it.
There was way too much going on for me. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that, it didn't hit me just right. But how did Stone do?
Stone was solid. You got
usual.
you got a nice kick of tea in there. You could take that. The back end of that was solid.
I got to think that
it was
tea
nice.
and hops are probably pretty good together.
It was. It was refreshing, and my throat felt good afterwards.
Oh.
And
eucalyptus.
We spent, after we got those beers, probably 30 to 40 seconds talking about those beers. Mm-hmm. We were there for about an hour. So 2 beers, 30 to 40 seconds. That's about a minute to a minute and 20 seconds that we spent talking about our beer. Then we talked about other things. Imagine that.
Oh, so you didn't spend the entire hour talking about the beer?
No, so when she goes to the pub, apparently all we ever do is we talk. What?
Like we do once a week?
What?
Spend an hour talking about beer?
Yeah. Oh, the irony is flowing now.
Yes.
Nevertheless, this is a podcast, so she can suck it and listen to what we got to say.
Yeah, she can suck it.
So anyway, we did not spend as apparently what most craft beer enthusiasts / nerds / hipsters do, talking about their beer and their beer only.
She's ill-informed.
And again, there's a select group of people that do that. Right. It's a very small segment. Again, and that's their prerogative. Nothing against what they're doing. If they want to talk about that over and over and over and over, fine. We did not talk about what we saw funny on public transport that day, mainly because we were in a car. If we were on public transport, perhaps we would have seen something funny.
She's Australian, too, so there's probably a little bit more of that. So
True.
She can kind of just drink her Fosters and shut up.
Yeah, so anyway, so that was another thing that really jumped out at me, too, is that apparently we spend too much time talking about our beer. I guess it goes back to the Budweiser ad. We dissect and we fuss and we blah, blah, blah.
I don't know that I've ever fussed over anything.
Pliny.
I wouldn't use the word fuss. Does anybody still use the word fuss other than Anheuser? Because that's a real common term.
Daycares.
Yeah, right. We're babies. Mm-hmm. We fuss.
So what else did she have to say? I don't know.
Nothing of note, probably.
Really, no. I mean, I'll just again. I could read it word for word, but what I'll do for you guys is I posted it on Breaking Brews. I'm going to put it on the Craft Beer Network Pittsburgh Craft Beer Network page as well, so you can go there and read the whole page.
Feel free to if she has a Twitter page, tweet her.
You know what? I actually looked. She doesn't.
Oh.
I was I was going to tweet the hell out of the link to this podcast to her, just so again, just to stroke my own ego, if nothing else. This actually, so you can share it.
Yeah, I wanted to see how many people actually. Did it say how many people actually shared?
No, there's nothing there. But again, just to stroke my own ego, I was going to do that. I actually was going to tell her, "Hey, we're talking about you tonight, asshole." But she didn't have any way for that to communicate.
I got to say that derogatory term was the least offensive term that had been used for this woman from some of the stuff.
Well, I knew I was onto something when I posted the article after I read it, and a lot of people jumped in. Were like, "Okay,
they're
sharing this
C-bombs, man."
Yeah, it
people
was
were
bad.
upset about this. This is how polarizing this woman is.
Yeah. Polarizing is not exactly the word I would use. Maybe I would in the most negative of terms.
Like you want her to get attacked by a big white bear?
Yeah.
And be polarized?
Finally, what one of your shitty jokes pays off. So anyway, she wraps up her swill article by saying, craft beer culture must die, or at least stop taking over all the pubs where I like to go. You know what? Stay home, bitch. We don't want you at our pubs.
Right.
If it were contained to its own small bars where I never drink, it just be another niche subculture where it belongs. Instead, it's being relentlessly hand-pumped down our throats. Give me cheap beer or give me sobriety.
Oh, you mean how cheap beer was pumped down our throats for the last 100 years?
Go start your own AA meeting and leave us the hell alone with your nonsense. Again.
Yeah, maybe she's a drunk.
Maybe I took this article a little bit too seriously. But the way I see it, again, it goes right back to the point I made at the beginning, is there is a lot of people out there doing amazing things, and there's a lot of
working hard too.
There's a lot of
they're brewing the hard way.
There's a lot of jobs out there that are created by this industry, and the fact that whoever the hell she thinks she is, and you know what, let's take it. Let's play devil's advocate for a minute. There's a lot of jobs out there because of the cheap beer industry. That exists. We understand that.
Sure.
It also takes a lot of effort to take this recipe for this shitty cheap beer and brew it in this state, this state, this state, this state, and this state, and have it taste exactly the same no matter where you get it.
Right.
There's a science to that too. Right. Hats off to them. They pulled off something that.
And let's really look at this. There's over 2,000 craft breweries in the United States.
Yeah.
There are two major. There are two macro breweries in the United States.
Right.
And those 2,000 craft breweries, I assure you, are employing more people than those two macro breweries. Yeah. So if we want to talk about what it's doing for the economy and that type of thing, the 17 or 15% or whatever craft beer has right now is probably generating more employment than those two big breweries are.
Yeah, I would.
We never really mention Miller and Coors in this whole equation. We always kind of attack.
They don't. Well,
and the reason we don't is because they had to merge, to compete.
Exactly.
I mean, if that tells you anything, I mean, think about how big Miller Lite is the most drank light beer there is.
No, I think that's Bud Light.
Is Bud Light really?
Bud Light's number one, yeah.
See, I guess maybe it's a regional thing because most people I see are drinking Miller Lite.
Yeah. But I think nationwide the numbers say Bud Light's number one.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
But think about that. Miller Lite, or just think of the two most drank, Miller Lite and Coors Light. Those are two giant brands of beer. Mm-hmm. Had to combine just to stay alive against Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah, and that's the whole monopolistic mentality that they have, is they wanted to rule the whole goddamn game. And fortunately,
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's a lot wrong with monopolies.
Well, no. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to be the biggest, the best, whatever it is. Well, they're never the best.
Then focus on your product.
They're the biggest.
That's the problem.
Exactly. They're not the best. They're the biggest.
Yeah,
and
that's all.
There's nothing wrong with trying to be the biggest, but the tactics that they do to their opponents are just
horrendous,
sniveling, and it irritates me.
It's just big business culture. We know it on a lot of levels. We're just more into the beer world than we are other parts of the world.
This happens.
We see this happens in America every day. Yeah.
We're talking beer right now, so that's what it is.
And for what it's worth, the little guys have obviously fought hard and put out a product that we are loving every single day. Hats off to them for continuing to fight the fight, because it'd be very easy for any one of them to throw in the towel and say, "Well, the hell with this." We can't fight.
Some have done it,
and it's like fighting a battleship with a slingshot.
Right.
I can't do this. I'm done. And they haven't. They said, you know what? We believe in what we're brewing. We believe that we have a following of people that's only going to continue to grow through mass appeal. And you're starting to see that transition of people make that shift. Assholes like this come along and try to ruin it with her articles of this whole culture needs to die because she's not happy about it. Maybe I took it the wrong way because I try to speak from a more positive standpoint, and when I come across things, I don't tear it down because I still look at it as that's someone's baby. That was someone's creation.
Sure.
So I try not to. It's very easy to go on, and that's just the human nature. And you see more negative reviews than positive because it's so much easier to go online and say this and this sucked, and this was not up to my standards.
And to be honest with
versus giving somebody kudos for the great things that they do.
This may be somebody who just found a hot topic to troll,
valid
and
point.
get some recognition out of. She might not even really believe.
Well,
this.
You know what? I was listening back on our podcast because, for what it's worth, I'm trying to get better at this every week. So I kind of, I like to listen back on what we talked about and just my own approach to what I'm saying into this microphone. And we talked about that clown that talked about how bad he hated the Goza beer.
Right.
And that was, as I was driving up here to record this with you tonight, that was one thing I was listening to, was that guy might be in that same class that you just nailed. Craft beer's hot right now.
Mm-hmm.
Anheuser-Busch made it hotter than it was.
This is a way to get my name out there.
I'm going to put my name on something like this and from a negative perspective. And you know what? If that was the approach, we all fell hook, line, and sinker. Because here we are. We've been talking about this for over 15 minutes now. So there you go.
Remember how we started this podcast and we had no idea what we were going to talk about? This is
officially
the longest podcast
with Jamie unfortunately being able to join us. Our big thing was, well, what are we going to talk about tonight? And I knew I had a couple subjects to talk about, one being this and one being my trip to D.C. for the Blood, Sweat, and Beer premiere.
You guys are in bonus time, folks.
We're rolling over, and I don't care because this is fun, man. There is no set time.
We're paying for this, so we'll go as long as we goddamn want to.
Yeah, we try to keep this just up to the point where attention spans don't taper off and go to sleep. But
I feel our podcast getting better every week, though.
I hope everybody agrees with that, because I do too.
Yeah, I'm having more fun doing it. I'm more relaxed doing it. I know our first one, we were probably like robots.
Dude, I'll tell you,
we're just tense. And
go back. I'll say this on the air, but go back and listen to that.
I don't want to.
Freaking train
I'm gonna douche chills the whole time listening to it.
Dude. But it is what it is. You got to start somewhere. So if anybody, you know what? I spoke about the Brew Gentlemen story and how inspirational that was. Mm-hmm. It doesn't just apply to starting a brewery. It's a business in general. These guys had a vision.
Yeah.
We had a vision to do a podcast. I don't care if it exists on the same level as starting a multi-million-dollar business, if it starts on starting, or if it exists on the level of starting a small business. When you want to do something, just go out there and do it and try it and get better at it. You can't get better at something by sitting on the sideline.
The only reason I do my individual podcast is just, it's almost therapy to me to just spew, or as they say, wax prophetic about stuff that I like and
I'm
don't
still waiting
like.
for you to do that. I'm going to get a beer.
I'm not very good at waxing. Prophetic.
Seen you without a shirt.
Ugh. Oh, let's not go there. All right, so
that was a terrible story.
well, you're going to see me without a shirt again in a couple weeks when we head down to Virginia Beach.
Virginia Beach podcast is going to be killer.
Yeah, because we're going to have probably some special guests, and by special guests, I mean
special, literally.
yeah, like they wear helmets and things. I actually can't wait for that, and I'm going to do my individual podcast. I really can't wait for that one because that one's going to be uncensored, and uncut, and crazy. But
I'm in.
We haven't talked about this yet.
The Bills fans are going to have serious chubbies after what we're about to talk about.
Right, and right before we go into that, I want to talk about the beers we're drinking right now. Full Pint Tri-PA, local Pittsburgh brewery, and they're known for their White Lightning wheat ale. People love that, and actually that may be the best wheat ale I've ever had. Is that White Lightning? I actually like that. But their Tri-PA is the best beer they have, and it's wonderful. It's what, like 11.5%?
It's a high one, yeah.
Something crazy. I can't remember exactly what the alcohol content is, but it doesn't taste like it has that kind of alcohol. So if you see Tri-PA, spend a few bucks because I think a 4-pack's like $17. Yeah. It's going to cost you a few bucks.
Well worth every penny.
Yeah, and it's delicious. It's a nice. Hey, I got nothing to do on a Friday night, and I'm going to sit on my couch and get blitzed and watch TV. That's a great beer to do it to.
Shout out to Full Pint for that one. Keep that one coming,
absolutely,
guys.
Absolutely. It's a good one.
We don't even have to talk about random stuff in the world because we actually covered beer. Our entire podcast about beer.
Yeah, we did. But we'll
mention the Bills thing.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the NFL for a little bit here because a big thing just came over while we were doing the podcast. The beloved Buffalo Bills, our hometown is probably 50% Bills fans.
Yeah,
and then,
it's like
and then 50%
Steelers
random.
And Browns.
Well, it's probably 25%
yeah.
Steelers, and then the amalgamation of other teams.
Mostly Bills.
Mostly Bills fans, and boy, did sexy Rexy Ryan just pull off a big move. This just came in before the podcast started. The Bills have traded Kiko Alonso, their star middle linebacker, for Shady McCoy to the Philadelphia Eagles.
I will say this though, this just came from ESPN.
Yeah.
The trade reported to be agreed upon by Adam Schefter cannot be made official until next Tuesday.
It's done.
Well, they can't.
Well, they can't. They probably
so
can't do it
official
until,
yet.
Yeah, they can't do it until free agency starts, probably, or something like that.
So we were. I mean, we again, not being a sports podcast, being a beer podcast, but being sports fans who drink beer while we watch sports. We're talking about NFL free agency, and I think again, it's cool. This is a good time of year because this is.
Oh, I love this time of year.
And being in fantasy football, it's neat to see the shakeups because instantly my mind goes to, well, how can I build a team that will lose in the second round of the playoffs if I can get that far? Because that seems to be my life of fantasy football lately.
This trade is. I'm trying to think back. This is as big a trade as there's been in the last few years.
You know what? As I look at this more objectively now. Yes, Shady McCoy is a freaking solid running back. I mean, the dude won the rushing title 2 years ago. His game was down this past year. I think Buffalo's cashing in at the right time.
I think part of that was the offensive line. Oh, yeah, sure.
Well, and Darren Sproles siphoned a lot of his carries and touches away.
Yeah.
Not so much carries, but catches. His catches out of the backfield.
Let's also not discount Kiko Alonso. This kid came out of college like a ball of fire. So... Yeah.
And Buffalo has built a solid defense up there too. So
so now it's time to work on the offense. And, Rex Ryan walked into this gig with one of the best defenses in football,
and he's a defensive-minded guy.
Right. So now it's time to build the offense.
The thing that sucks, maybe again speaking from my own fantasy misery over the past couple of years of owning C.J. Spiller, because I do 500,000 leagues each year. I have to own him at least in one. Mm-hmm. That poor dude just can't catch a break.
Well, other than his ankle.
He's not. That's about it. He's not an every down back, but he could.
Well, he may be. He just can't stay
He's
healthy.
Too small. He's too small to be an every down back.
But, that's not true.
But they don't give
Darren Sproles.
He's not an every down back either.
But he's not. He shouldn't even be a one down back.
But the thing about C.J. Spiller is this guy can catch when he catches the ball. The moves he can make in space are sick, but they don't give him the opportunity.
And the straight line speed he has is unmatched.
It's sick. So that's where I just look at Shady McCoy's another guy that's in that same class, maybe on a slower scale, but
but to me he's more skilled than Spiller. He has more. To me, he has more.
I will say, yeah, Shady McCoy. Yeah, LaShawn McCoy's a better running back.
He is an overall player, and he is an every down back.
Yeah,
he's an every down back. The moves that guy makes and the cuts he makes and the football smarts and his vision are amazing. And I think combine that with Rex Ryan, a guy who really likes running the ball.
Yeah. He'll be big.
He's going to be a big fantasy pickup this year.
No quarterback. They don't have a quarterback.
Free agency's not over yet.
Who's going to be out there?
Probably somebody better than E.J. Manuel.
Well, that means you or I could go up there and play.
I don't want to play for the Bills.
Okay. It's great tailgating up there.
It is great tailgating.
Probably the best tailgating in football.
Well, I haven't been everywhere, but I gotta say,
I've been there, Pittsburgh, and Jacksonville, and of the three,
right, of the 1/10 of the teams that you've been to,
Buffalo's the best.
Yes, no. The thing about Buffalo and the tailgating is not necessarily just the tailgating; it's the location and the ambiance of the tailgating. You're literally in people's backyards.
That's what's cool. I mean, for those that are Bills fans listening to our podcast, which is probably 2 to 3 people, for the other 3 to 4 people that
we're up 100% from last week.
Let's talk about Orchard Park, New York, where the Bills Stadium is a mile down the road from the interstate, and you're driving through a neighborhood, and boom, football stadium. There it is.
It's pretty cool.
And the people in that neighborhood make their money by opening up their lawn for parking.
What did we figure out?
40 to 50,000 a year is what we figured
on an
they
8-game stretch,
on an 8 plus preseason, so 10-game stretch.
Right,
If
and
they were to ever make the playoffs again,
bonus.
Holy crap, that would be
at least
these folks almost $75,000 a year in parking.
And actually, for the cost of living up there, these folks make a full-time living just having people park in their yards.
Yeah.
They got to clean up a little bit afterwards and that type of thing. But what a great gig!
That's a good gig. You have to be a janitor for a couple hours, and then you get to make all this money doing nothing. But
you don't have to be a janitor; you just have your kids go out and clean it up.
No, there you go. That works too.
Go get the litter sticks, kids. Go out there and clean up the yard.
But yeah, in all honesty, Buffalo's an awesome tailgating experience. Really, it's fun to go to football games up there. That whole lower bowl doesn't sit; you stand for the whole game.
Right.
That's how for having a.
Well, and then you have the hill on the outside there that where people actually play King of the Hill when they're drunk. You ever hear that out there?
Oh yeah,
we've never done that. No. Thank God, because I don't feel like getting injured. But they go out there and play King of the Hill on that hill right outside the stadium. It kind of
hell with that.
No kidding.
But they have.
I don't think I've ever been to a Bills game sober or not.
It's
hungover.
impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Well, why would you want to? We're not Bills fans.
Yeah, I've been really hungover.
To tolerate a product that bad, you got to drink.
That is true.
There's no way around it. So
that is true.
So to wrap up the football talk, we'll say that backfield's going to be a little bit crowded should that trade go through come Tuesday. So who's the odd man out? Spiller?
Spiller's getting, because Freddie Jackson, as old as he is, quote unquote, he's what, 33?
33 or 34, yeah.
He's still solid.
Yeah.
Still solid, still a great runner, still, has plenty of skill. So Spiller's going to be the odd man out. And there will be plenty of market for C.J. Spiller.
Absolutely. Bring him to Pittsburgh, baby. We'll take him.
Right. Well, there's a team right there.
You want to compliment the Le'Veon Bell?
There's a team right there that could use a guy like that.
Yep.
And also, the big teams that they keep talking about running backs in are the 49ers, the Cardinals, the Colts, and Jacksonville. They're all in the market for a solid running back. I know Denard Robinson put on a show a little bit last year, but you want to talk about a guy who's probably not an every down back.
Yeah,
he's not, but he's explosive. But there's plenty of teams out there that
there's also some other back like Steven Jackson's available. Now I don't know how much he's got left in the tank.
Yeah, his tank's on E,
there.
I think, but he'd be a great goal line guy.
Yeah.
Well, there's another Steelers guy. They like big, fat goal line guys. But, But Steven Jackson,
I don't
fat,
see
he's
it.
all muscle.
You know what though, Le'Veon Bell.
They were looking at Steven Jackson before they got Garrett. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, but you know what? With Le'Veon Bell, that might be because in the NFL right now, it's a dying art form to be an every down back.
They need another back.
They need a backup just so he doesn't get hurt.
Right.
But you know what? Where he did get hurt in that Cincinnati game that cost him being in the playoff game was a fluke play. It was a brutal hit. Right, I mean,
well, and then
it wasn't an illegal hit either. It was
no. Yeah, let's not get that started.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying.
But yes, that was a legal hit. He hit him in the thigh. It just happened to be when he's planting his leg. We get it.
The amount of touches that guy gets and what he does with them, he's probably one of the last of the dying breed of every down running backs.
I can't wait for him to be on my fantasy team this year.
Last
year when I drafted him, I swear to God, when I drafted him last year, it came around to me and I'm like, I guess I'll take Le'Veon Bell. That was my feelings on that, and he won me some money last year.
Yes, he did.
He's a good man.
So, thanks, Le'Veon.
Yes.
You cost me money, but you won him money,
yes.
So good stuff.
2 leagues.
So,
good.
Nevertheless.
2 out of my 3.
So, before we put a bow on this whole Over a Couple of Beers podcast, which has turned into Over a Few Beers because we're in overtime.
Yeah, and these are I've had 2 very high alcohol beers.
I've had 3. Oh, yeah, 2. That's right. I had the same ones as you.
Well, you're on your 3rd.
I'm on my 3rd. So anyway, before we wrap up, I did want to give a shout-out to the Independent over in Squirrel Hill. It's embarrassing that I even say that it took me as long as it did to get over there and check those guys out, but I went over there last Monday, and they're one of the few bars in Pittsburgh, and I know there's a couple other bars that have created this concept and are running with this concept, which I think is phenomenal, is strictly sticking to local-based beverages. And by beverages, I mean they're trying to do cocktails, not just the beers, and that's what's cool about Independent is they're focusing on having at least 20 beers from local breweries on tap, or regional breweries too, which is phenomenal.
Are they doing that with the alcohol, like the liquor as well?
Yeah,
they're using
they're using like Wiggle whiskey. They're using Maggie's Farm rum. They're using a lot of the local distilleries as well. Apis Meadery. So it's awesome. That's a place you guys need to go check out from a local perspective. And a couple quick plugs just as reminders. We talked about them extensively last week, but I'm just going to talk about them briefly tonight. This Saturday is Hell with the Lid Off at Kelly's. I'm going to be at the early session from 1 to 4. So if you guys are in the house and you recognize my voice, feel free to stop by and have a barley wine with me. These guys are going to be pulling out some sick barley wines from, as I said last week, breweries that don't even exist anymore in some cases. So that party's going to be cool. They've actually got a couple, as far as I know at the time of this recording, they have a couple tickets left for the afternoon session. So check that out. If you want to be in attendance, look into that on our website. The PCM blog has a full write-up on the Hell with the Lid Off event. Also this Saturday, the Pittsburgh Brew Fest down at the Sheridan at Station Square is going to be rolling from 5 to 8. VIP access is from 4 to 8. myself and another fellow Pittsburgh brew or beer podcaster, Doug Durda, are going to be judges for the beer competition at this event. His podcast is called Should I Drink That? You guys should definitely take a listen to that.
Indeed.
And again, in regards to the whole competition or judging thing, I'm still wondering what I'll be doing, and I'm excited to see what actually happens because I'm going to be rolling in there from a barley wine festival. It's going to be cool. So if you haven't bought tickets yet,
oh no,
we talked about that. You do this.
I
one
did,
to 4 at Kelly's, 5 to 8.
Oh right, I do remember
5
this.
to 8 at the Pittsburgh Brew Fest.
You're not going to be able to taste anything.
I'm taking the tea home.
These poor folks.
I'm taking the tea home.
Oh.
I'm going to not drive a car that day. It's going to be fun.
Yes, please do not drive a car that day.
Lots of water beforehand. Judging will be very fair. But if you haven't bought a ticket to that event yet, check out PittsburghBrewFest.com. There are still tickets available, again, at the Sheridan Station Square from 5 to 8. VIP tickets are from 4 to 8. And the final shout is just a reminder of next week. We're going to have James Stellmacher from Stellmacher Brewing, and I just want to apologize for mispronouncing his name on last week's podcast when I called him Shellmacher. His name is actually Stellmacher, so my bad, my friend.
What's wrong with you?
I don't know. I completely tried to fly with that and thought I had it in my head the right way, but I did not. So next week we're going to have James on. We're going to taste some of his sour beers. He has a big event coming up at House of 1,000 Beers next Saturday, the 14th of March. So we're going to taste those beers and talk to them about that and get some insight behind them because I love sour beers, but the complexity and how they're made is something that I'm really looking forward to gaining some education on. So
being from Pittsburgh, you can't say it that way anyway.
Sour
beers.
Sour power. So
keep talking. I'm trying to figure out a song we can play on the way out.
So I got really nothing to say. You guys, do you want to listen to some Dead Air? Do you want to listen to?
No, there's no Dead Air.
You can play the Clincher again. I love that song. It's a great outro too.
No, because I mentioned this last week when you were talking about the blood, the sweat, and the beers.
Finish out with a little Machine Head.
Yeah.
That's great.
Just keep talking. Keep talking. I'm finding it.
So what else did
I probably should have done this right before.
Yeah, you really should have.
There it is.
Way to prepare.
That's the live version.
So down in D.C., or I shouldn't even say D.C., in Maryland, I actually had some other great places that we checked out. Maryland's a pretty cool place. I had a lot of fun down there. I'm not a Ravens fan. One thing I was not keen on listening to was Capitals fans give Alexander Ovechkin the verbal hand job while we were at the bar watching the Caps game.
Penguins fans do that to all the Penguins all the
time. I know. I just felt
that
made me miss home. It made me wish that I was in one of my Pittsburgh bars listening to the Sidney Crosby verbal hand jobs.
Keep going.
But in all honesty, come on, dude, you're killing me here. I don't want to talk anymore.
No, keep talking.
So
what do you mean you don't want to talk anymore? Half the time we can't shut you up.
Half the time.